Hello, everyone. Just excellent. So, yes, as you can see, if you've got your chat window open on your right-hand side, you'll be able to see that you can put in any questions and have any chats. Feel free to introduce yourself while you're in there as well. Love to hear from everybody. So we are here for the iPhone filming presentation to talk specifically about scripting and getting everything prepared for your filming on your iPhone. So if everyone can just say a quick hello for everybody who's here and let me know in the chat if you can hear me properly, just so I know how that's all going. So if you can just let me know in the chat window if you can hear me. Cool. Excellent. Thank you, Carol. Thanks, Marie. All good. Awesome. Excellent. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. I'm just going to close anything that's making noises before I go. My apologies. Excellent. So let's get started on our presentation. So I've got my tea all ready to go because we're talking about writing. So we want to get into this and comfortable and warm. Scripting is very, very important when you start doing your own videos to help you feel comfortable, make sure you're covering everything that you want to be covering and going on from there and being able to create great videos that you're happy with and comfortable with. Throughout the presentation, so on the right hand side there's lots of sort of different icons going, so I will be moving from my slides and to the chat room. So if you do have any questions throughout, type it away in the chat room and I will, I'll keep on checking in the chat room to make sure that I'm covering everything, and we'll go from there. So I may not answer your questions straight away. I'll do my best to get onto it as quickly as possible. It's hard to sort of click back and forth and then keep chatting away. So let's get on to the presentation. Awesome. Okay, so this is an introduction into scripting, specifically for your iPhone videos that you'll be creating for any of your social content. It's great that you're here to be able to create that social content, and I know that you're all ready to go and going, yeah, we've got to start doing some videos and getting them up online. The ASBAS Digital Solutions Program has been really fantastic. So I've been presenting and mentoring with them for, I think maybe 2 years now, pretty much, I think, from the beginning. It's a great service brought to you by the Small Business Advisory and the Australian Government. So there's a range of different workshops. I hope you've been able to all have a chance to go through and check out all the different workshops that they've got and options for small business owners, because this way you get to learn all these new different things and ways to help your business in sections that you may not be super comfortable with. We're not experts in absolutely everything, so it's amazing that you've got access to different mentors that can help you with the sections that you aren't so comfortable with, you haven't had as much knowledge with, you haven't had as much time to explore. So my name, oh gosh, I haven't even introduced myself. Sorry, everybody. So I'm Mia de Rauch. I'm the owner and director of Flip Switch Media. So we are a video production company, content creators. So we specialize in the video production space because I've been in the industry for 20 years and I started out doing film and TV production, working, as a producer and production assistant, and then moved on to creating online content in the writing space as well as production and through to editing. And so now my business is actually specifically, creating online content for all types of businesses. And I also have a degree in digital marketing. So it all sort of brings it together to be able to work with businesses and help them to create content that's really going to resonate with the right target audiences. So what I would love to see in the chat now, if you could write in what you wanted to be getting out of this session, you know, why you've come here, why you've chosen to spend your time and your very precious time to be here. So if you can just leave us a little note in the chat and tell us why you've come along to this particular writing seminar. There's actually going to be a series of 3, so I believe we're going to be doing one specifically about filming and how to film with your iPhone, and then there'll be one for editing as well. So excellent. So Carol, you're looking for strategy and for a bit of structure as well. So we'll definitely be covering that. I've got 2 different ways in which you can write and script any of your content and get that sort of fulfilled. So you have, you know, something very simple and a very simple sort of structure and template that you know that you can just run with to create your videos and to really shorten that process and shorten maybe the overthinking that you might be doing when it comes to creating your content. Oh, that's amazing. Fantastic. So really glad to hear that you're working on a kid's book, and definitely lots of videos that can go with that to create that marketing and to promote not only the book itself, but also yourself and the characters within it. If you are creating your own kids book, I highly recommend you actually follow on Instagram a writer called Michaela Skilney. She's been creating some really, really good content for her recent kids book, and actually starting to talk about how being an independent writer as well. So she might be a great one to look at from short content pieces. For this sort of structure and everything, it's really, really important to be able to talk to a wide range of different target audiences. So we're going to talk about that way as well. And it is, you know, video is a great way, Marie, to be promoting your business and looking in a professional manner. So we'll be talking about the particular types of language that you can be using to talk directly to your target audience, so it doesn't feel so generalized and such. So Michaela is Michaela. So it's like Michael A. And Skilney, Skilney. I have 24 members of a gallery, so need best strategy for a voice. Fantastic. That's fantastic. So we will definitely be going through that and going through all the languages and the different voice that you can be getting across. Tourism marketing. Brilliant. That's fantastic. So when you're in the tourism market, there is a lot of content you can create, a lot of creativity that you can pull from that, because it's such a visual place to be and such an important place. So being able to put a script together and get things down fast, it's also going to be really helpful. I'm hoping that this workshop will also be really helpful when it comes to actually your planning and your content creation ideas, because this is really where we start, is in, I guess, pre-production, where we're thinking about the different ideas, the different types of content and what we want to get across to our audiences, or just one specific audience. Thank you so much for all of your feedback on that. So we're going to be covering platforms and target audiences. You know, will there be any limitations in what you can actually do and what language you should be using? You know, are we going to be looking at it in a professional manner? Like, are you focusing your content on LinkedIn, where you will need to have a more professional tone as it is a business-based platform? Or is there something you can have a little bit of fun with across TikTok, which again, limitations on that will be the short time frame that is on that platform. It's the same as Instagram, very short time frames. And, you know, can you open up your language a little bit more to be more conversational, or do we need to keep continuing with that professional? What are we aiming for? We're going to look at different ideas boards and content planning and briefs as well, how to get that started and how that's going to help you to be able to bring that structure in and deal with the hook and make sure you've got a hook in your actual writing right from the beginning. And as much as this sentence has been annoying me, how do you read? It's grammatically fine, but it annoys me. How do you read? So how are we going to write it to suit your speaking style? Because there's a very big difference in creating something that's going to be essay or blog form than it is creating something that's going to be in your speaking style. because reading and speaking are going to be two very different things. If you've ever done presentations, you'll know it can be quite difficult to read something very, very quickly when it's not sort of the normal way that you would speak. And you want, when you're creating this type of content, you want to be as yourself as possible. You want to be able to be authentic and natural. And in that case, we want to also speak the same way that we would on a normal everyday outing in the supermarket when you see someone and they ask you a question. I see there's something in the chat room. I'm not actually 100% sure if you do receive a copy of the presentation. I'll have to check in with the ASBAS team on that one. I do believe there is access to it though, which should be fine. So let's start with platforms and target audiences. I'm starting with this because it makes a huge difference to how you end up actually scripting in every sense of every sense. If you're going to be creating things on YouTube, a very, very different ballgame to creating something on Instagram. And as I said previously, a very, very different platform to LinkedIn. So we need to understand what platforms you're going to be using. As small businesses, it's very, very difficult to be across more than two at most. So it's about taking the time to know exactly where your target audiences are and making sure you're on those platforms. But they also need to be platforms that you like too. If you don't like TikTok and you don't want to create TikTok, don't be on TikTok. You can find somebody else if you desperately have to be in it, find somebody else in your organization that is more keen on that sort of platform. But if you are more of a, you've been in corporate for a long time and you're more comfortable in that professional and you're wanting to connect with B2Bs, you would be spending much more time on LinkedIn than you would be TikTok. So let's go through them a little bit more specifically. So YouTube or Vimeo. So if you're creating videos across YouTube and Vimeo, so we're going more sort of, video vlog, blog type content that you're going to be connecting to your website, you have all of the time in the world. So it's a landscape format. Sorry, I always think of things in visual manners. So it's a landscape format, but you've got all of the time in the world to create these videos. So you can speak for as long as you want, and you can do your video and make your video go for as long as you want to. You can do a whole deep dive into the topic that you want to discuss and get across to your audience across YouTube, which is amazing. Like, YouTube is the second highest search engine after Google. So it is a place where people are looking to find information, to learn new things, and be able to visually see what's going on as well. So it's a really great platform to be across if you're in the coaching space, the information space, and wanting to sort of show off your business. This is so I highly recommend YouTube or Vimeo. It's not, unless you're going to be doing sort of a series or promising a particular series, it's not something you have to do all of the time, but I would highly recommend you using it and having your own channel and directing as much as possible to your website via the YouTube and Vimeo. Facebook, it's great for business if you've got the time. The platform is favoring sort of the 3-minute videos and higher at the moment. The only reason that they're doing it is because they want to keep audiences on their platform for longer. So if you can create videos that are longer than 3 minutes, then they're going to love you. It also means that they can stick those ads in the halfway point, which aren't fun, but that's what we've got these days. So the longer the video, the more likely it is that once it gets to a particular size of audience, that they'll stick some advertising in it. It's still a good space though. You've still got quite a large audience in Facebook and quite a worldwide audience across Facebook. It would be one that you'd have to look at, creating consistent content. So it could be a double up. So you could be putting these videos up on YouTube and the exact same videos up on Facebook. For Instagram, it's a bit different. You will have to be quite snappy and hit your mark very quickly and put that hook in the first sort of 3 seconds or so because you only have a minute. It is a square format, so it is a little bit different, but you can still upload landscapes, so they don't have too much of a problem with that. Their longer form platform is IGTV. So it's a completely different format, but it's a lot longer. So you can get that more informational documentary style kind of content out there that, that you can get that across to people. I, even as a video production team, don't use IGTV. We are still sort of, I want to be able to show that we do know how to make quick content. So we use Instagram for that purpose, and I've got Facebook for anything that's a little bit longer. It doesn't really sort of fit into our particular audience. If it did, I would 100% be using it. For stories, again, and they've got a completely different format for that. So you're going to be in that portrait mode, and everything is viewed in 15-second blocks. The great thing about stories is you can actually just go live. So if you're prepared and ready and you have your script down pat and you're really comfortable with it, highly recommend going live and just trying out a few different things. The reasons that you can be a little bit more experimental is it's only up for 24 hours. So if you don't like the content, you can pull it down straight away, or it's going to automatically be down in 24 hours. So you don't really have to sort of worry about people sort of going back and searching and finding something and not liking it. It can be a really great way for you guys to practice speaking to camera and working through your scripts and practicing the sort of styles and the ways in which you want to script your videos as well. So I would highly recommend it if you're going to be, you want to put yourself forward. Any thoughts on IG Reels? My thoughts are they've made that to try and fight with TikTok. As a professional content creator, I don't love Reels. They do get quite big hits. You can have a lot of fun with them, and they're very, very easy to put your content together. So if you've got a couple of different clips and you've got video of yourself in there, or you want to just do sort of like a big group of clips, IG Reels are really, really fun to do, and you've got all of the options of different text you can use and filters, and they can be a lot of fun. So I like IG Reels if that's the sort of target audience that you're aiming for. Could 100% work amazingly for tourism. I would recommend though that IG Reels are starting to get more and more used. So I would think about the structure of what your reel is going to be before you put anything together. So say, so like we'll probably end up talking about this in the iPhone filming seminar, by the way. But if you are filming with your phone, know exactly what shots you've gotten and have kind of, I guess, an idea of the storyboard that's going on in your head before you put it together and put it up online. Sort of the quick throwaway ones have sort of had their time now. They're really being used for great promotional purposes. So if you are going to use IG Reels, still think about it, still have an idea, still have a plan or a branding, I guess, overall of what you want your IG Reels to look like. And the same with LinkedIn as well. You've got the landscape mode again for LinkedIn, and scripts need to be much more focused on business. Where LinkedIn differs from a lot of the other platforms is it's not promotional at all. It doesn't want you to be promotional. It is more about sharing your knowledge, sharing information about what you've learnt and your experiences in whatever industry you're in. And it's very much a B2B platform, so a business to business platform. So if you are a business that works with other businesses, then this is a platform that you definitely want to look at and be putting information out about. I know people get quite nervous about sharing their IP, or sharing their information and experience because they believe that people will copy them. It's really not the case. Yes, people may sort of copy you and follow on, but sort of see it as the fact that people are listening and that maybe you are doing it right. See it as a compliment, and focus on making sure that your content is going out to the people that you actually want to work with and to other industries. So don't speak to the people within your own industry, speak to the people that you want to be working with as such within LinkedIn. For your target audiences, we're getting even more specific into how you're going to be structuring your language as such and structuring your scripts. When it comes to language, you need to be considering the age, profession, and geography of your audiences or audience. Are we talking a worldwide audience? Are we going specifically into Australia? Are we talking specifically Victoria or Tasmania or South Australia? It takes a lot to sort of think about. You know, you want your audience to feel comfortable with you. You want your audience to feel like you're speaking directly to them. So think about the things that they would know and they would understand. It's the same as sort of when, I guess, when you consider age, there's going to be language more specific to people over 50s that they're going to understand over people in their 20s. And I'm not going to pretend that I know the kind of slang that they're using at the moment, even though I've got a 21-year-old and 23-year-old who work for me. Some stuff I still don't understand, but that's a whole other ballgame. Like if that's the market you are aiming for, then you need to consider the kind of slang that they might be using. In comparison, you wouldn't be doing a video with that particular type of slang to people over 50. And their profession as well. So taking into account, are we doing a video that's going to be specifically for, say for me personally, if I was doing a video specifically for production people or for film people, then I can say things like stage right, stage left. I can talk about framing in a particular way. I can talk about, editing software and being able to do this and transitions and cross dissolves and blah, blah, blah. Whereas for you guys, all of that, you would have just gone, what are you talking about? So I obviously then wouldn't use that particular type of language when speaking to people outside of my industry. This is where industry knowledge comes in as well, and understanding the abbreviations and acronyms. So, I've got an example there, a business coach aimed at higher level corporates could probably use B2B or B2C and use those kind of abbreviations. But if you're aiming for maybe sort of startups or small business owners, you'd be actually wanting to say the whole extension of business to business to make sure that you're not alienating anybody that's only just sort of starting out, that you want to start a conversation with. As I said, each generation has their own take on languages, which definitely needs to be considered. If you're across TikTok, there's going to be a lot more slang than you're using across LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn, you're going to be expected to have, for want of a better term, you're going to be expected to have a lot more better grammar, which that sentence wasn't, and be aiming for people over 40 years of age and actually understanding their geography and their demographics as well. Maybe in those discussions is where, if you're in the tourism industry, you'd be talking about going, well, this kind of holiday is made for business people because this is where you can relax. The kids can do this, the kids can do that, you can do this, those sorts of things. And I know it's getting detailed into the geography, but it really does sort of take an understanding of that as well. You may be wanting to desperately hit the Queensland market. And I know there's even words that you can tell you're a Queenslander or a Victorian. And, that can be taken into account if you want to be very specific to a state. And are you your own audience? So this is something that we need to think about as well, because if you are your own audience, stick to the same language that you would use with your friends. It just becomes so much more authentic and safer to use and more comfortable for you, because this is the aim. This is the main aim, is number one, is you have to be comfortable with what you're saying and you have to be comfortable with how you're coming across. And if you're not feeling like yourself, you're not going to be comfortable, and that is going to be seen and felt in the videos. And over time, you're not going to want to create these videos anymore, and you're going to sort of, you're not going to enjoy creating the content. And we want to enjoy creating this content. It's not just about the audience, it's about you. So let's get started on a few things. So these are some examples of some ideas and content planning, sort of structures and templates that I use. So one thing that I will always do with a lot of my clients is we'll sit and spend like 2 hours, 45 minutes to 2 hours, just listing out topics. Most of it can come from your frequently asked questions. Most of it, you'll be able to figure out from the questions that, you are frequently asked by your guests, by your clients, by other businesses, by friends. But what are some other topics that you can put in there that others may not know about, that may be interested, that may be able to bring other people forward? And what are some questions that will suit the particular industries or people that you're aiming for? So say again, my brain is still in the tourism space. So say that you're aiming for grey nomads. What are the particular things that grey nomads are actually looking for? Do you want to be putting out information about particular campsites, about how to, create the best caravan site, how to easily reverse park your caravan, or the benefits of choosing to be in accommodation over the caravan life? There's all these little details that you can create and create huge topics. Out of those topics, you can look at creating 4 or 5 different pieces of content and scripting out 4 or 5 different pieces of content. It just makes things so much simpler in the long run, because then it's the last thing you need to do is go, oh, wow, that's right, I haven't created any content today. Oh, I've got to think of something. Oh, that's very stressful and I won't do it. If you've got everything listed out there, you and staff members, other people can create the content when they've got time to create the content and have things ready to go. On the right-hand side is the planner I use for my content as well, where I make sure I've got room for any notes, the type of content that I need to do, if it's, if there's particular seasonal things. When it comes to video, I need to make sure that, I'm covering issues of winter. Being in Victoria, I do talk about how we sort of shoot in the rain, or other kinds of options of videos we can do when it's crappy weather. And I've also then got a calendar as well that I can fill out with my own dates as to when I want to be creating what content. Am I going to use Wednesdays to have informative videos, Mondays for more promotional videos, things like that? There are many, many types of content planners that you can get online very, very easily. You type content planners or video content planners, social media content planner into Google, and you can find many a content planner. So when it comes to scripting, I'll always start with a brief, a very, very rough outline of what it is that I exactly want to talk about for each topic, which pretty much turns them into sort of like subheaders. What's the topic? So that's your header right there. So that's the title of what you're going to be creating. Point out the key messages that you need to get across, and then you outline each key message. Then you can start your script. So that's your first point. It shouldn't, once you get used to it, it will not take you very long to do, because this is all information and all topics that you guys know a lot about. So you're going to be able to easily get it across. When it comes to the key messages, consider how long you're intending to create your video as well, if it's going to be longer or shorter. If you're going to create a longer video and then cut it into key message videos. So that's something sneaky you can do as well, is to create one long form video and then later on down the track, edit each of the videos to be just the shorter key messages. So then you've got 4 videos and you only created 1. You only had to film once. It's very, very simple. Outlining each of those key messages again, it's going in and going, okay, is this a deep dive or is this just a brief overview? Is this conversational? Like, how deep do you want to go on those key messages? Again, it's going to depend on the topic as well. You don't, not every single topic is going to be specifically needing of a deep dive. Others might. And I think that's important to sort of know as well. Not every single piece of content that you create, not every script that you create needs to be 30 minutes in length. You could just have, somebody could have just asked a very simple question and you create a video about it, it might only be 30 seconds. But as long as you've covered the hook and you've covered the answer and you've solved the problem, that's all it needs to be. So after I've done the brief is when we get into the elements of writing. And yes, I am going to give you guys some time to actually do some writing as well at the end of this. So we're going to start with the writing formula number 1. Don't forget this whole time, you're telling a story. You may not think it's the most interesting of stories, but your audience will, because they don't know it. They don't know the story. They don't know what you know. So the things that you might think are mundane and everyday are still a story. So we start with Act 1. So what's the problem? So this is how we set it up. What is the problem? What's the setup? What are the causes and consequences of that problem? What's the resolution? It's as simple as that. Set up with what the problem is. So what's the problem? Let's say the problem is your audience's videos are not hitting the mark. So in Act 2, I talk about how they're wasting precious time creating videos that are not reaching their audiences. They're lowering retention rates, and not seeing an increase in the brand awareness and sales. So within Act 2, I'm expanding out what the problem actually is and what are the causes of that problem. Small business owners, you don't want to waste time. Any business owners, you don't want to waste time. You know that you need to create these videos, but you don't want them to be a waste of time. You want them to be making sure that they're reaching their audiences, but you're seeing the retention rates not happening and you're not seeing an increase in brand awareness and sales. So we're going to fix that problem. So that problem, we provide a formula that makes creating videos faster and more engaging to your audience. So using that, so I'll leave this slide up. Using that, let's just take maybe sort of 10 minutes to write out what you think your Act 1, 2, and 3 would be on a particular topic. So just pick something really, really simple. Like the problem is that no one is coming along to our accommodation. The problem is that kids aren't reading books anymore. The problem is either I need to connect with the people within our local government council. If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to add into the chat. How are we all going? If anyone would like to, I know it's not easy, but if anyone would like to actually type out what they've written into the comments, I'd love to see it. It's not the easiest platform when it comes to writing. I usually like doing these face to face. But boy, did last year show us something like that, didn't it? Problem is the door is closed in cold weather and we have highly reflective glass windows. Uh-huh. So when it comes to Act 1, the problem is not your problem. The problem is the audience's problem. So while your problem is that people aren't signing up for an important website listing, their problem may be that their particular accommodation is not being found, or their location is not being found, or they're finding that other independent sites are charging them too high a percentage. Then Act 2, you would talk about why that's a particular problem. What are the consequences of those problems? So the consequence of them not being able to be found on a particular site or on their own website, them being higher percentages, that's an absolute waste of time for them. They're missing their audience. They're not being found as quickly as they possibly could, so they're spending far too much time on marketing and sales than they could be spending on actually giving people a really good time. Act 3 is then when you would say, we provide a platform, which is a national database that you can have your property listed. Perfect. Pamela, solution, our staff are here to help. We can make a time to sit down and help them with their listing. Brilliant. So that's fantastic. A little off the mark for Act 1. That's totally fine. But Act 3, like, you know exactly what it is that you're providing. So that already is going to help. So you just need to be more specific about what the problem is for them. So what's the solution to, what is the solution that you are providing that helps their problem? But a great start. So Michelle, so publishers are not keen to publish highly educational stories. So that's the problem. So is that your problem or is that the publisher's problem? So who's your target audience in this? Is it going to be kids, their parents, or is it publishers in this particular story? So when it comes, like, that's 3 very, very different target audiences. But let's say we're aiming at publishers. So what's the publisher's problem? Are they running out of content? Are the books too particularly focused on animals, or too, I'm not 100% sure. Oh, hi, Belinda. Yeah. Belinda, that's great. So Act 1, which is your problem, so your particular people's problem, so they, you know, they want to start working on acrylic paint, so their problem is that they want to start a new hobby or they want to have a creative outlet, but it's a little bit all overwhelming, and maybe they've never been in a creative space before. They're not 100% sure how to get their outlet out. And that has all come from the cause and problem with that has been that, yeah, they are sort of seeing so many things happening on Instagram, and so many artists on Instagram doing all these particular weird, creative, cool things, but they don't want to waste their money on canvases and the right paints, and it can make a lot of mess and feel frustrated, and feel like you're just not an artist at all, and you don't want to get that feeling. Like you want to make sure that you're still continuing with feeling creative because it's such a good thing to do. Act 3, you've got the workshops that are going to be able to help them. So it's a fun learning environment. That's fantastic. That's a really great start. Michelle, so we're targeting educators at primary schools. So what is the educator's problem? So what issues do they have? Is it that the kids are not reading books? Are the books, all of the kids at far too many different levels when it comes to their sufficiency at English? How is it that what is the problem that you're going to be solving through your book and through providing and publishing this particular book? Then you can be more specific about what the problem does, what the effect is. So say, so if we go with a general sort of look of, you know, Act 1, the problem is that kids aren't reading anymore. Act 2, we can extend that out and just go with young kids not reading anymore, their literacy is getting lower and lower and making things more and more difficult as they get older. The longer that kids wait to start to understand and take the time to learn English, the harder it is. The harder it is to learn a language for them and to get a better sense of grammar and understanding and comfort. And this could later on lead to so many different issues with some social issues in getting jobs, and in confidence within the classroom. What you're providing is the ability for them to actually have an outlet to learn and to begin to love reading and love the language and understand it more. So that's what you're going to provide. Marie, women are not using their own intuition to make any choices. So true. They're wasting a lot of time asking others and Googling. Yes, they are. Are you talking to me, Marie? I provide workshops to teach women how to tap into their divine feminine intuition. Beautiful. Perfect. There's your brief right there. You know exactly what is happening, what the problem is. You know exactly what the causes and the consequences of those problems are going to be. And you know what your solution is. And you know what you're going to provide. So out of all of that, you can extend that out and bring in some really great examples of how you can help with the intuition and bring in their divine femininity so that they can understand themselves and maybe stop overthinking how things work. People struggling to get along at work and losing efficiency. They spend too much time navigating personalities and work isn't getting done. Yes, I provide a language. Wonderful. That's fantastic as well. You've got there Act 1. The problem is that people are struggling to get along, and that is a drop in efficiency. So you could even just literally have it as Act 1, you're struggling to get along with your co-workers at work. The problem that everything that's causing and the consequences of that is that you're losing efficiency, you're spending far too much time navigating personalities and dealing with everyone's little cruxes and social manners, that work isn't getting done, efficiency is dropping, the business isn't going as well as you would want to, and you don't have the energy anymore. Act 3, your solution is that you provide a particular language that's going to help them to formulate a better manner and a positive manner and gain efficiency within the workplace. Fantastic. You guys have it all down pat. Everything that we put in this, because this is going to be in a generalized term, you could literally have that up on a piece of paper in your office and have it as a mantra. This is the problem. These are the consequences of that particular problem and the causes of that particular problem, and this is how we solve it. Having that up there for you to see on a regular basis, for having staff to see, having clients to see, they know exactly what it is that you guys do. And that is your starting block for any type of content that you're going to be putting out there about your business. So let's move on. This one is a little bit more particular. So this is why I've put this one on after the sort of, the generalized feel, because now we're going to start talking about where within scripts you would be putting things like your hook, introductions, titles, things like that. This one is on script writing formula number 2. So we're putting things into a video timeline because we're specifically here to script videos. So there does need to be, a formula around it that's specifically for the visual frames. Within the first 0 seconds, not like I did at the beginning of this where I completely forgot to introduce myself to you guys, we're going to introduce who you are and bring in the hook, which is just you restating the video headlines. So I'm Mia from Flip Switch Media, and I'm here to show you how to script your videos. Maybe not so dramatic. I just desperately needed a glass of some tea. Oh, we've got some chat. Oh, yes. Yes. So everyone, if you have a look on the chat, we do have an amazing range of businesses going on in this seminar. So if you would like to show everybody your website, definitely put it up in the chat and make some connections and network as best you can within this online environment. I'm sorry, I'm really hoping you can't hear my dog right now. Sorry about that. So introduce yourselves, make some connections within the chat window. That's what we are all here for. Back to the video timeline. Sorry, everybody. So you introduce who you are and bring in the hook. This particular hook is just you restating your video headline. So why are we making this video? Why are people listening? Why do you want them to listen? What is the whole point of the video? Within 50 seconds, you would be looking at the title. So it's giving a little bit more detail of the problem. So we're just sort of sliding from Act 1 into Act 2. When it comes to visuals as well, like I'm sort of going, this would be maybe where you put in some branding and some titles, especially if you're going to be using like a longer form video. So maybe, your name across it, making sure you're using your business colors, be it sort of teals or the blues like you see here that we're using for Melbourne Innovation Centre. Brilliant. Thanks, Pamela. We'll look that up. So, making sure you add titles. So see if I can do this on screen. Can you guys actually see me? So where my hands are is where you could put a really great little title of what it is you're actually speaking about. So we want to go under the assumption as well that people may not have actually turned their audio on just yet. They would have if they're on YouTube because they're there for visual content. But across Facebook and Instagram, they may not have actually turned the sound on yet. So if you have a title and you have the topic and everything set out as a title at the bottom, it's another way to visually hook them in and go, this is what my topic is. This is what I'm going to talk about. You're going to be interested in it. Within 1 minute is where you start to do the framing. So this is where you frame and expand on the problem. So this is where you can really connect in with your audience here and help them to show that you understand what it is that's going on and you understand the consequences, you understand the problems that they're facing within them as individuals or as a business. And I know I'm making this sort of sound like, every single topic has to be really deep and really strong, and we need to sort of, be hitting people emotionally. But expanding on an issue may just be talking more about the love of art, talking more about, that you can spend 10 minutes of your day or 10 minutes in a week doing something creative. Like, it doesn't have to be this deep and meaningful. You can just talk about happiness. You can talk about very, very light topics, but you are going to go into more detail about them. So that's what we're sort of talking about when it comes to context. So so then the 1 minute mark, we're adding in some context here. Around the 2 minute mark is where you're going to expand on that hook again. So you're going to restate the problem. Can we talk about the problem from another angle? Like, is there another particular thing? So, with everybody having issues with different personalities around the office, yes, that may be causing inefficiency, but what else could that be causing? Could that be causing some friction in the office between workmates that need to work quite closely together? Is there a way that we can expand on that problem? Because every single problem that you're talking about in Act 1, there's going to be more than one causal consequence. You'll have your most important one that you have and you frame that and you add context around that. But let's offer up another couple of options of what could be happening down the track if they're halfway through that problem. Once you've covered that potential second problem or consequence is when you can start talking about your solutions. So you present all of your answers to the problem, and this is where you come in strong and confident and knowledgeable. Use the steps however you like. So you can do something really instructional and do step by step. So if you are doing a 1 minute video and you need to shorten this all down, imagine it coming up as titles going, this is how I'm going to deal with the solution. This is the solution. We're going to come in and have formulas on how we're going to have of the language that we use within the office. We're going to talk about our different personalities. We're going to do this, and this is what I can do for you. This all leads into your call to action. Every single video that you do, the ending has to be a call to action because you're creating this content for your business. You're here to promote yourself and to promote your business. So let's not waste any part of your content with a call to action at the end. That's where you can promote your business, your coaching, any courses that you may be putting out through your business, anything additional that you want to tell your audience about. So why I've said anything you want to tell your audience about is because it doesn't actually have to be promotional. You don't have to, at the end of every single one, be like, call me, this is my website, this is what I do, anything like that. Sometimes it could just be if you want to know more about this topic, I have a free white paper that you can look at. It could be to know more about this particular topic, go to my deep dive video on YouTube at this link. You might not be using every single video as that sales push. You're definitely going to want some sales push, and we leave it to the end so that people don't feel like they're being sold to, because giving the information is what you're giving them. You've got to give your audience something. And then at the end is when you can go, hey, now you've seen that this is the knowledge that I have. This is what I can do for you. This is how you can contact me. And this is how I go about it. Before we move into how do you read, does anybody want to, I guess, expand on what they've done within the Act 1, 2 and 3 from Formula 1 and how they've expanded it into Formula 2. I know it's probably not going to be easy on the chat, but if you've got any questions or you want to talk about anything in particular, I've got my chat window open now, and I love that you guys have put all your information on there. Thank you so much. If you've got any questions, I'll just give you some space to ask them now. I don't know if everybody saw, but at the end they did say that you would be receiving this. So you do receive this presentation, so you can follow on and repeat it and go through it all, and to use it as your formula, so you don't have to remember absolutely everything right now. Oh, thank you, Carol. Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. Okay, well, we'll continue on then. But again, if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat and I'll go through them. So we're getting into how do you read? So you've created this whole, you've got the framework, wondering about offering a solution quickly when thinking about all the things. Okay, so none of your topics are really all that quick. That's totally fine. You don't have to do complete sort of deep dives into what the problems are. You can really just sort of state, hey, here's the problem and these are the consequences and this is how I fix it. I know that's a very simplified version, but not everything you have to do has to go into the really deep, intricate, detailed ones, especially if you're doing things across sort of stories or Instagram or TikTok that have the time limits on them. You're not going to be able to go in very deeply into what the problems are. Offering a solution quickly will be really helpful to the target audience that maybe are a little bit time poor. But you also want to be mindful again of what it is you actually offer in your workshops in comparison to what you actually put in online. So your workshops, obviously you'll have the more deep dive into the solutions and you'll have more time to go through with them one-on-one or as a group, what those solutions are and how they can work with them. But online, you are going to be generalizing it slightly, so you can drop it down and be comfortable with with what you put out online. I don't really hold back when it comes to information on how to create your own videos, and my business is in helping small businesses create videos. So I'm a production company. So we create videos, so we create professional videos, but I am still open and willing to help people to create their own, because I think it's important and because I know as a small business, you're not going to be able to afford my services all the time and you're going to want to regularly create that content. So I use that as a way to sort of help and to give to people and to show people that I do have knowledge and that I do have information. I'm open and willing to share on how we do everything, because we're also not the only production company in town. It's a pretty simple thing, and that's just sort of the way I run my business. But you run it the way you want to run it, and you give across online what you want to give. If there's particular parts of the solutions that you need to hold, then definitely keep them for the workshops. But that's what you say. Like in the workshops, you get more of a deep dive into these solutions, and I'll help you more specifically for your particular circumstance. I hope I've answered that question. I feel like I waffled slightly a little bit. Sorry, Belinda. So I've just done up this slide because, again, so how you read a video script is about writing the way that you're most comfortable. So no one is going to see this script but you. So you want to be as natural as possible. If you're the type of person that you need a full script, then go for it and create a full script. Some people will only want dot points, and you'll get used to knowing the way that works best for you. Awesome. I'm glad we're on the same page, Belinda. All the waffling in the world. You want to create something that's as natural as possible. Just like me standing here waffling. When it comes to a full script, there are a lot of times where I will use a full script and I will write out everything exactly as I want to say, because I am prone to waffling and losing track of where I was intending on going, and I get a little excited. Other people having dot points and being given the freedom to, I guess, come up with the language themselves as they go along is so much more comfortable for them. And that I completely understand as well. So I've done that a lot of times when it comes to particular topics, especially if I've got time within the video to talk more specifically about particular dot points, I will just create dot points and talk away. If I know I have a limit or I want to limit myself, I'll create a full script. The pros of a full script is everything you need to say is in there. So when you're first starting out and you're not super comfortable with videos, there isn't that, Michelle, and we'll be getting to that soon. Everything you need is actually there. Everything you need to say is there. So you don't actually need to be thinking too much. You don't have to be panicking about, are you on the right topic? What did I just say? What's going on? All of those things. You can sit and you can read. So every read you do, so if you are going to end up doing a couple of different takes, so that's when you do the video a few times over, they'll all be the same. So there may be a few mistakes here and there, which is why you've done them a couple of times, but every read will be the same. So you can sort of edit them together if need be. Like if you are struggling to read a whole 1 minute script, you could maybe script and read a paragraph, breathe, have a breather, stop, start filming again for the next paragraph, and so on, and you can clip them together and feel a little bit more comfortable. You don't have to rely on memory. And live, if you're going to be doing live videos, scripts are handy because there's not going to be any weird breaks where you've forgotten your point, or you're not sure what's going on, or you start to waffle. The cons on that is that you can sound like you're reading. So you can sort of get that sort of, so if I sat here reading, like, write out your script in a way that makes you feel most comfortable. You want to be as natural as possible. Do you want full scripts or dot points? So you get that kind of, you lose that natural conversational feel, which for some people, isn't too great. And you can't think on your feet as well. So if you've written something and you go, oh, actually, that would have been really handy to put in. If you have dot points, you can just slide it in. Whereas if you're on the script, it can be a bit difficult to sort of maneuver in that point. For dot points, the pros are that you do sound more natural and conversational if you're comfortable and you know your topic and you're fine with videos. The cons can be that if you're not comfortable and you're not so great with videos and you're still just practicing, you're going to forget a few things and you might start to waffle. You will be able to divert things more easily when they pop into your head. And for live, you have a chance to actually pick up if there's any questions that come in or any comments that come in while you're live. Whereas if you've done a script while you're live, you're kind of sort of going with the flow here and you're not really paying a huge amount of attention. Whereas dot points on live, you can sort of understand what's going on and actually make it more conversational. It's completely up to you guys as to what you want to do. Some people get to a point where they've been doing videos for years and there's just, the script is just in their head. And they just know exactly what it is that they're going to say. They don't even write anything out. They may write, the topic and a couple of dot points or key messages, and that's it. because that's all they need. But there are a lot of people that I work with we create videos, and they're still reading from a full script just because that's just more comfortable for them, and that's just the way they've been. If you've had any acting experience before, like, you may be more likely to go towards a full script as well because you're sort of used to playing with language in that way. Here we go. Your apps and tech to make things easy. So I've added in rev.com in here. They do transcriptions and captions. So I know you're already going to have your script already done. But what they can actually do is that you can actually send that script in and actually get turned into captions so that you can place that over the top of your video. Facebook does automatic captions, so you don't really have to worry about that too much. YouTube now does automatic captioning, so you can actually go in there. They're very accurate in comparison to what they used to be. I'd highly recommend captions so that you can use that to draw people in to turn the sound on, because obviously sound is automatically off. So someone speaking, they're very likely to just sort of scroll past. Whereas if they've got captions to read, that might stop them enough in the feed to get them to start listening. So you can always send your video or you can send your full script into Rev, and they'll put captions on it for you or deal with captions. Or if you are one of those people that you, like, later on down the track, you want to start just going straight to video and creating things straight to video, and you understand your act 1, 2, and 3, and you're all prepared to go, you know where your hook is, you know your call to action, you can actually create everything in an audio or put it up on a video and then send it to Rev, and they'll turn it into a blog post for you. So if you want to start some written content as well and go in the opposite direction of what we're doing right now, there's that as well. They're really, really good, and it's not expensive at all. My favorite of the teleprompter apps are these ones. So we use Teleprompter Premium and have like a full teleprompter service in the studio, but these ones are great for your smartphone. So Big View is a really good one, so you can read the script while it's scrolling up on your smartphone screen, and it also adds captions and boosts the audio for you. So that's a really handy extra service in it. So if you are out somewhere and there's a little bit of cafe noise or there's some kids noises, it will actually make sure to boost your voice over the sound of those. The teleprompter for video, again, you can scroll that in portrait or landscape mode, and it automatically adds captions as well. So that, again, is super handy. All of these teleprompters, you can either, yes, Big View's free. All of these are free, actually, except Premium. Teleprompter Premium is not free. The handy thing about Teleprompter Premium is you can actually be doing mirroring. You can actually mirror it. So you can actually set up your phone to have a bit of a change. So you don't actually have to, like, you can actually set up things to be a little bit simpler. So you don't have to be, the problem with using a teleprompter on your phone is that you have to actually be quite close to the screen to read it, depending on your eyesight. They do, obviously, they allow for different sizes of fonts, but if you can't read to a particular level, you're going to be quite close to the screen to be able to read it. Whereas Teleprompter Premium will allow you to actually set up a rig, which is just, like an extra tripod, and actually have a mirror so you can actually make it bigger. So your phone would be down low, your mirror would be up, and you'd be reading like the same as what you see newsreader use, which means you can use a proper camera, or you'd be using another phone to be filming with. So, like, it sounds like it's a much bigger sort of setup, but it means you can read it if you need it to be a little bit bigger. Another option is also to just use an iPad instead of a phone, because, again, you get a bigger screen. So they're all really, really handy to use. You can either type it directly into the teleprompter app, or you can actually sort of send it and do a bit of a copy and a paste. Make sure you sort of run through it. You can do it at all different sort of levels and speeds, so you can really play around with it to sort of suit what's comfortable for you and works for you. I speak a little bit faster than a lot of other people, so I would have mine up slightly higher, or I would actually slow it down so I spoke like a normal person sometimes. So that's always really handy. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, cool. So what I want to do is go through. I want you to pick another topic. Yeah, Big View is free, teleprompter for video is free, teleprompter premium is not free. So I want you to go through and pick another topic and tell a story. So what is another problem that you find your audience has, or a completely different audience from the one that you've done in your previous script? So in this one, so instead of the Act 1, the problem is your audience's videos are not hitting the mark, I might do the problem is that businesses are struggling to find time to create videos. In Act 2, I would talk about the consequences of that and losing time and the importance of time for businesses, as well as the loss of audiences from not giving video and social media content the time. I then could actually, in Act 3 or Act 2 into Act 3, I could talk about delegation. I could talk about the differences between professional content to creating your own content. And I could talk about time efficiency in scripting, filming, and editing. So let's just take another sort of 10 minutes or so. To work on something new. Does anybody have any questions? Now, another option for when you're telling a story is to think about how you're telling it. And would you be the best person to tell that story? Is there a way that you could get testimonials from your clients that could be put into videos? Can you get staff members to talk about the business? Can you get clients to talk about the problem that they had and the consequences of that problem and what solution you gave to make it easier for them? In those particular ones, it's really great to still have a script ready and prepared, especially for PR purposes. If you are going to have a client sort of speak on behalf of you, then it would be amazing to make sure that they're still using the language that you'd like them to use, that they speak about the right sort of part of your business and the right service that you've provided, and that they make sense. So you can still create scripts that are more specifically for somebody else to read as well, which changes up the content as well. So it doesn't always have to be you. Don't get too bogged down with the teleprompter and get too excited about the teleprompter, because you do want to have some videos that are going to be different. You don't want to always have the same, unless you're, showing you're doing workshop things, or you're giving particular information and you want them to be that particular way. Don't make all of your videos have the same sort of backgrounds and things like that. I think it's important to sort of give some variety as well. So tell some other stories and find other ways to tell your story. Can it be done in a more visual manner? Does it have to be all spoken? Marie, that's great. Well done. People feel disconnected and not part of a community. They have tried joining different groups but never feel that they fit in. Act 3, I offer drum circles, which provide a variety of health and well-being benefits and forms great community and is so much fun. So in Act 1, you're connecting with their disconnect, and not feeling part of a community. So in Act 2, you want to be talking about, that this is the problem that they've been facing. They've been trying to join all different groups. They're not feeling comfortable. They don't feel like they fit in. Nervousness and some social awkwardness is coming into play. What you offer is a community of open and friendly and fun environment through drumming circles. So within your particular one for Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, you probably don't even need to talk about the varieties of health and wellbeing benefits, because you're talking specifically about the community and the community feel that you've been able to create, and that you want people, that you've created this space so that people know that they can come in and they can be in a fun environment. They're not going to be, sat there down like a business networking where you have to, stand up and introduce yourself and be talking and chatting away. No, they can have some fun. They can feel the vibrations of the drum circle, and they can feel part of that community using that beat and that music. The problem is we have stairs halfway in the space. Half the artists may not be viewed by visitors. Rolling screen and little contents could be placed near the artist in the profile. Yeah, all of that can be expanded really well, Catherine. That's great. We often don't think about our parents' or grandparents' stories until it's too late. Precious family or even business histories can be lost. Tap those family treasures. Memoirs and capturing people's voices on the page. Michelle, that's beautiful. Obviously, you're a writer already, so it doesn't matter. So what you've been able to do is, within that first act, is actually gather in on somebody's emotion, and the problem is emotional as well. That we don't think about our parents' stories or our grandparents' stories until it's too late. The loss of that family history, the loss of a business history, can just be like, it's an emotional loss, as well as sort of, devastating. There could be so much learned from that history. There could be so much more information that helps people to make sense of their own world and where they've come from. And what you do in your solution is to create beautiful memoirs with you having comfortable, strong interviewing skills and capturing that person's voice on the page. So it's not just your writing, it's their voice on a page. So that's really, really good, because you can really get across that really emotive language within Act 1, 2, and 3. Again, if you're not in an emotive space, it doesn't have to be emotive. We don't have to deep dive into people's emotions. Not every problem is, going to cause that kind of deep, heartfelt emotion. A lot of problems can also just be, business problems that are just, causing a struggle. But you can still get that, through onto a page within a couple of acts. So do we feel comfortable on expanding on what you've been able to do within that? You go, problem, blah, blah, blah. Consequences, da, da, da. Solution, this is what I do. Do we feel comfortable with all of that now? If you have any other questions, you can still keep going. Wonderful. Great, Marie. I'm really glad that you're feeling a bit more comfortable with it. Now it's really just about taking the time to sort of practice and working through the scripts. Maybe even if you are uncomfortable with video, sometimes just sitting in front of a friend and chatting it through with them just to see if they understand. Because it can be difficult. Right at the beginning, most of us were writing as to what our problem was, and we've now moved into the target audience's problem. So it can be difficult to sort of move out of that space and not worry about what your problem is as a business, and focus on what the audience's problem. Is there someone that you could speak it out to and actually talk out loud to? And a lot of occasions, I live alone, so a lot of my occasions I actually speak to my dog. And I'll actually talk a script out to my dog. So then I can actually auditorily hear it and hear what the script sounds like. He's usually asleep the whole time or looking at me and judging me. But at least I can get it out of my mind or off the page and see what it actually sounds like from somebody else's perspective. Is there anything else about writing scripts or being in front of the camera that you guys aren't 100% sure on, that you're not comfortable with, that I could help you out with today? I wanted to make my presentation slightly shorter so that we had this time to go through and just to deal with any other questions that you may have when it comes to video and being in front of it as well. Just calming people. Don't be fearful of the camera. Look, it is one of those that it's just getting used to being in front of the camera. Unfortunately, I know that's probably not what you wanted to hear, but it is very much like, yeah, people do get very nervous in front of the camera. It's a very different kind of thing. You know, even at the moment, all I have to communicate with you is a chat room. When you're creating most of your videos, unless you're doing it live and have an audience, there's no one to bounce off. So it can be, you know, you have to use sort of your own energy and your own comfort levels, but it is literally all as this practice makes perfect. And it is just knowing what you're comfortable with, where your safe space is and where your limits are, and not wanting, you know, and being okay with not crossing them as well. It can be very, very difficult to calm people's nerves when they're creating the videos. This is why we want to simplify it as much as possible. As I've said, you know, if you are sort of getting other people to create videos or get sort of testimonials for you, maybe give them a script so that they're prepared. It's another thing that they don't have to think about. Another way that we do it and is that I don't actually have people speak directly to the camera. If you can be there with them, I'm not sure if you can be with them, Pamela, but if you can be with them or there can be somebody with them, try and get them to maybe speak just off to the camera just slightly. So you would have seen in some professional videos that people are actually doing their interviews and chatting off camera to somebody in this form. And I do that for a lot of clients. Instead of having them speak to camera, I'll just have a conversation with them. So I'll be on the side of the camera, just off to the side, and they'll just speak to me. Oh, great. So Pamela, so you can be with them. So it is probably one of those ones where you can set up the camera, whether it be like a proper camera or your iPhone, just have it next to you and sort of press record. What I'll usually do is, like, if I'm doing it, I'll just press record while we're still having a conversation. Depends on their nervousness levels. If they're not super, super nervous, I can say, okay, I'm recording, let's chat away. Some people are so nervous that I'll keep them in a conversation and we'll just chat about their day. And we'll just go through your normal kind of friendship conversations. I'll start pressing record and then I'll eventually start moving into asking questions and sort of having them prepared in that sort of way. So it's very much sort of understanding and being able to be aware of where people are at on that nervousness level and finding their comfort from there. They might just feel better just like not knowing if it's recording or not. And so you just have a conversation and it's recording and you can edit it later. Others, you can go, okay, well, let's start. So let's start with your name and blah, blah, blah. And just being able to speak to a person over a camera makes a huge difference. It really does. Editing, I saw a question about editing software. Editing software within your phone, I would recommend on very, very simple videos. Maybe when you're speaking, iMovie is great because it's free. It has a very, very simple timeline. You can do some really simple cuts. There's titles that you can have over the top. Changing like color grading and filter wise, not so fantastic, but a really, really simple editing tool. Another one I use is called InShot. So it's IN, well, let's type it in, shall I? InShot. So that's a really great editing tool because it lets you change the canvas size. So that's the frame. So if you have to go to square or landscape or portrait, it allows you to do that within. It has its own little emojis and GIFs that you can add. There's music in there. There's titles to play with and fonts to play with. So that's a really, really fun editing app to use as well. So I highly recommend that one. If you want to go up another level, you'd be going with the Adobe Creative Suite, Premiere Pro. So Premiere have one called Spark. I was going to show it to you, but I won't because I don't know where I put it. Oh, sorry, Rauch. So there's Premiere Rush. So that's one that I use as well. InShot is free, iMovie is free, Premiere Rush is not free, but that's part of our like business software. But I really like it because it's also got like Lightroom. It's got a really, really fast way to do some editing and everything. It's very, very high tech. So you probably don't really need to go that far into it. There are a few other ones that others like. I've got so many, it's crazy. So there's also Record It, Videorama, Vlog It, Video Crop. All of these ones, and Splice as well. So Splice is also one that's recommended. No, it's not going to let me show you. Is it going to let me show you? Okay. Okay. So it's a little bit more funky, but you have your whole timeline in that one as well, and you can add things over the top of the timeline. So I just pulled up one that's the example, excuse me, that they use. So it's pretty cool. So I quite like Splice as well. So they're all really good ones to use. I'd probably start, if you've never done editing or anything before, I would start with iMovie and then move into the ones that have more detail. Yeah. Yeah, Splice used to be much simpler than it is now. They've got all high tech on it and started to go for a more influencer audience. So they got a little bit more detailed. Best phone app to make reels to upload. I'm pretty sure, Belinda, that at least I do, in my settings on Instagram, I've put it to automatically save to my phone. So that happens with my reels and photos and posts and stuff. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's supposed to just should just be sort of in your account settings. You should be able to sync it to stay on your phone as well. They're pretty good for that. Any other questions? So you'll see at the top of the chat window that feedback forms will need to be completed. So a member of the digital solutions team will sort that out with you. Their feedback form is there on the link at the top of the chat. So if everybody could please fill out those forms, that would be fantastic, and helps us to be able to continue on with the program and keep it going for ASBAS. So we love that. Thank you, Marie. So thanks everybody for coming along to the session. Really appreciate having you here. If there's any more questions or anything, feel free to keep on asking. I'll be here for a little bit. This is for a web thing that I didn't even get to see any of your pretty faces. This was still a really, really lovely and connective group. So thank you very much. Thank you for being part of it and dealing with the writing back and forth in a chat room instead of being able to just sort of do it here. We've been having so much fun working all of this out. So thank you very, very much. Scripting is so, so important. So I really appreciate that you've come along and you're making the effort because it really will save you so much time. I believe that next week is the filming with your iPhone session, and then the week after that, or 2 weeks after that, I could just do this thing where I actually just check my calendar. So the 25th at 10 a.m., which is next Tuesday, we have the ASBAS filming with your iPhone event. So that one I'll run through actually physically using your phone to actually be doing the filming. And then on the 8th of June, we'll be running through editing. So editing directly on your phone as well. So thank you all very, very much. And I'll see you guys hopefully in another session.